Well, this is a story all about how my lamp got turned upside down. Now, I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became a genie with a top knot of hair. Let's get started. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thumb Together. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Aladdin, the new one, together. For my first wish, if you have not done so already, please feel free to give this video a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. All right. If you know me, here's some things you might know about me. Number one, Aladdin is my favorite Disney animated movie like ever. Number two, I am not in love with these live action remakes that Disney's doing. The very first video I ever put up on this channel a million years ago was me talking about how much The Jungle Book hurt me. And number three, Jafar is my favorite Disney villain and one of my favorite villains, period. So there was a lot of pressure for me riding on this movie, okay? This movie was gonna have to do some legwork if it wanted this guy to walk out of it with a smile on his face, especially because my cheeks are still raw and stinging from where The Jungle Book slapped them. Now, I didn't see Beating the Beast because I was like, no, I'm done. I'm done with this. Forget it. No, thank you. And I'm not going to go see Lion King for the very same reason. Like, I don't care about these new ones. But I felt like I needed to see Aladdin because Aladdin is my homeboy. Jafar is my homeboy. This movie itself is my homeboy. I just needed to see these characters again and see what they did with them. So now I've watched Aladdin. What's the verdict? The verdict is, it's okay. It is. It is pretty okay. This was not a bad film at all. In fact, I had some fun. I had some laughs. I had some... Yeah, that's it. Just some laughs. I was going to say some tears, but no, there wasn't really any part of this movie that hit me like that. All right, first the good. What was good? Mina Massoud, Naomi Scott, and Will Smith. Excellent. I don't know where they found this Mina Massoud guy. Well, I know where they found him, from Canada, represent, but I don't know where, he came from, but he is just so good. I'm so glad they found him because he is Aladdin in this film. He's got the look down. He's even got the voice down. Aladdin in the cartoon had this really sort of unique voice, and Mina kind of brings that to the table. He's got that whole, come on, Abu, let's go. He's got that, I can't do it. He's got the mentality of Aladdin down pat. He's got the charisma. He brings it. Will Smith, excellent, man. You can't replace Robin, so they didn't even try to do that. They just let him be Will Smith, and they made him a great genie. I thought he looked fine. The special effects were okay. We all had a laugh first time we saw it, but it was fine. It was the genie. And I will say this, ever since I was a kid and I fell in love with the original, I always used to think, the genie spends the entire movie just interacting with Aladdin and then later Jafar. And I always thought, I wonder what it would be like if other characters interacted with the genie. What would happen if Jasmine just walked into the room at the wrong time and she saw Aladdin talking to this giant blue smoke ghost man? How would she react to that? Would she freak out? Would she be curious? I always used to think I want to see the genie, talk to the other characters, talk to the Sultan, talk to Jasmine. What's that like? And Aladdin 2019 shows me what that's like. I think I'm the only person who really cared about that. I don't know anybody else who's just yeah, what would it be like if the genie talked to other people? So it was kind of neat that this film answered the question that only this dork was asking for the past 27 years. And maybe I'm biased because I spent the last almost 3 decades thinking of this, but those were some of the highlights of the whole movie for me, was seeing the genie, kind of disguised as a human, just walking around, talking to other folks in Agrabah, talking to Jasmine's handmaiden Dahlia, who's this new character that they added, and she was really cool and fun too. She was probably the funniest character in the movie, and they gave the genie's introduction a new spin, which I liked. I thought that was a nice, sweet addition to the genie's character arc. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that I think they did pretty much everything right as far as the genie is concerned. And as for Jasmine, Naomi Scott, apart from being one of the most beautiful women on the planet, Naomi Scott is super talented, and she takes this character to a whole other level. In this movie, Jasmine's a fucking rock star, man. She is great. And coincidentally, this is the second time in a row that Naomi Scott has played a character who I used to have a crush on in my childhood and made that character even more interesting than they were in the 90s. Now all that's left is for her to play a younger version of Dorothy Zbornak, and the trifecta will be complete as far as this guy's concerned. What didn't I like? Jafar is not great. I would probably say he's not even good. Pretty bland, actually. In the cartoon, Jafar and Iago were like playing out their whole other comedy of errors in the background. Those two were like Abbott and Costello. They had this cool little back and forth with each other where they bickered like a married couple, and they both had senses of humor. It wasn't like Jafar was the straight man and Iago was the crazy one. They were both kind of funny, and they would take pot shots at each other. They had this great little dynamic. Iago was clearly smarter than the average parrot. I always used to think, Iago was something Jafar created. Like, Jafar used his magic to make this parrot smart, but he had to hide that. So Iago just pretends like he's a normal dumb parrot when they're around the Sultan or everybody else, and then when they're in private, Iago's like, hey, I'm really smart, I'm talking like a normal person. Jafar's like, shut up, man, like the princess is coming, let's what's up? And they would have to hide that aspect of their relationship from the rest of the world. It was so much fun. Jafar has been my favorite Disney villain since like day one, to the point where I own this. Okay, I have this hand-drawn photo of Jafar and this autographed picture, autographed by Jonathan Freeman, the guy who did the original voice of Jafar. Like, this is my boy. All right, I cannot get enough of this character. I love him so much. I just love the humor in the character and the darkness. It was balanced out really, really well. And the Jafar in this movie didn't have any of that. And neither did the Iago. They did one really, really cool thing with Jafar, which is they gave him a backstory where he used to be just like Aladdin. He used to be a street rat who went and picked pockets in Agrabah and somehow worked his way up to being the royal vizier to the Sultan. That was badass. That was like, it gave him some cool backstory, and B, it was a cautionary tale. It's like holding a dark mirror up to Aladdin, and it's like, Aladdin, if you don't smarten up, you might end up like this mofo here, and you don't want that. That's a bad thing. That was great. But then when they take this fantastic, charismatic character and his equally charismatic parrot, when they take this and turn it into just a stock villain who just talks like this and never really displays any sort of interesting emotions. He's just sort of a greedy person who's evil because the script says he is. That's lame, guys. That is really lame. I'm sorry. I mean, the movie is not lacking for charisma. Aladdin, Jasmine, and the genie have plenty of it to spare. But when they stick like a hose in Jafar and Iago and siphon out all the charisma from them, it leaves this gaping black hole where two great characters used to be. And now every time they're on screen in this one, I'm just like, oh, please cut back to Jasmine or something. Like, I cannot handle this dude. I can't handle this. I'm boring Jafar. Look at my staff. Can't wait to go do greedy things soon, because I'm the villain. Yeah. One last thing that I'm not a fan of in this movie or in the other live-action adaptations Disney has been doing, they have this unfortunate side effect, being adaptations, that I like to call karaoke, in a way. And I don't mean that just musically, I mean it all across the board. And what I mean by karaoke is there are lines of dialogue in those animated classics that they would take and put into these scripts. Sometimes they keep it exactly the same, and sometimes they switch it up a little bit. Both is fine. That's cool. I got no problem with that. However, when the 30-year-old animated movie characters say the lines of dialogue with lots of passion, and then the live-action actors in this new version don't, it's like, well, why did you keep that line if you're not going to deliver it well? And I call it karaoke because it's like the equivalent of, if you're a really big Journey fan and you watch somebody, some guy takes the microphone at karaoke night and starts singing Journey, but he's just like, just a small town girl living in a lonely world. You start thinking, well, why did they choose to sing Journey if they're not going to put the love into it? You know what I mean? And an example of that in Aladdin is this. There's a moment very early in this movie, and early in the original, where Aladdin saves the children on the street when that guy on the horse is about to bowl them over. And then Aladdin and that guy have this little altercation back and forth. Now, in the animated film, the guy on the horse delivers a line, and he says it like this. You were born a street rat, you'll die a street rat, and only your fleas will mourn you. and then he disappears into the palace. They take that same line, they tweak it a little bit, which is fine, and they give it to another character in this film, and this is how the character on the horse in this live action version delivers that line. You were born witless, you will die witless, and only your fleas will mourn you. You see what I mean by karaoke? If you're not gonna sing Don't Stop Believin' with the same love that Steve Perry does, maybe pick a different song. You know, give that character a different line. Make him say anything else. It doesn't even have to be a clever line. It can be basic. It can just be like, get out of the way, street rat. I have places to be and you clearly don't. You know, just anything. But if you're just saying the line because it was in the script in 1992, why are you bothering? So the little things that are still there that still kind of tick me off about these are present. The new stuff is fine. I didn't hate Aladdin. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. A quick side note before we go. I was so in love with Aladdin when I was a little kid. You know, I used to have recurring dreams about walking through the streets of Agrabah. That's how much I was enchanted by that movie. And I found this VHS tape. It's some ghetto, like Japanese anime VHS tape. And it was Aladdin and then Alibaba and the 40 Thieves together on one tape. And it was weird. And it was like, it had this like snarky sense of humor to it. I don't know if anybody else knows what this is. I'm going to try to find an image and put it up. But if you had this tape, reach out to me. I want to know if this thing, you know, existed anywhere else other than my living room. But that has been Thumb Together. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you here next time. And until then, adios.